I will just start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the cultural landscapes in which we are gathered here today. The Bundjalung and the Yugambeh people. I will recognise that their continued connection to our land, seas and skies on which Gold Coast Airport operates, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who might be here with us today. So today it is an exciting morning. We've had an all morning full of excitement, but today we get to share the news that Gold Coast Airport is now home to Bonza. This is a significant win for Gold Coast Airport and the whole community, as it will deliver over $100 million of economic benefit into our local economy. And I must say, what better way to start than a game of good old Aussie cricket here on the Gold Coast. Purple cricket, I will say, but like anything else with sport, it is a team effort. And so firstly, I would like to say thank you to Bonza and Carly, Tim and the whole team for having confidence in the Gold Coast. And of course, thanks to our entire Queensland Airports team who have made this happen today. So Bonza's new services will deliver 70 flight connections per week. That means around 500,000 passenger seats per year for the Gold Coast Airport. This includes 11 destinations, 8 of which will be new to the existing routes, and 4 which have never been serviced here on the Gold Coast before. The other 3 routes are existing routes and will give our customers more choice as they choose to travel. The wonderful thing about these extra connections are they're not only great for the visitor economy, but they're great for our locals who want to visit their family and friends over in those regional airports. So on that note, I'll now hand over to Tim Jordan, the CEO of Bonza, who'll say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you to the whole of the Gold Coast team. We are here because of teamwork. We are here because the Gold Coast has been and is Australia's #1 playground. And we are here to bring more people to the Gold Coast, but also to give the Gold Coast community the option to travel to new locations around our wonderful big backyard. We are adding 11 routes initially to the Gold Coast, and it is initially. We do believe there is potential for more in the future, but in terms of the 11, 8 are not serviced by other airlines. This is about extending what Bonza has already done and delivered on the Sunshine Coast and at Melbourne Tullamarine, which is about bringing new route choice, bringing choice to unserved or underserved markets. That is what Bonza is all about, and today is a natural extension of that. After today's announcement, we will be servicing 33 markets, which is pretty good going in our first year of operation. 33 markets, very, very importantly, 28 of those markets, 85%, are not serviced by other airlines. We are not about doing the same things as the other guys. We are about bringing new route choice and new market stimulation to wherever we operate. And today, the wonderful news is that is here on the Gold Coast, and today is a great first step for whether it's the community of the Gold Coast or many of the new locations that we will bring directly into the Gold Coast as a consequence of today's announcement. So thank you for the warm welcome, and it's an absolute pleasure being here. Thank you.
We're excited to have Bonza welcome to the Gold Coast, and we thank Bonza and Gold Coast Airport for this amazing partnership. You know, what we did learn during COVID and post-COVID is that a lot of Australians rediscovered the new and exciting Gold Coast, and this is another opportunity to bring people here, see what we've got to offer, and we just can't wait to welcome these people to our beautiful city.
Yeah, we might start with you, Rachel.
Yes.
In terms of the new jobs and having a base here on the Gold Coast, can you walk us through, the stimulation to the economy there?
Look, it's going to be fantastic to have these new jobs on the Gold Coast. You know, the tourism industry is so important. It's 1 in 6 jobs on the Gold Coast, and this is just going to add even more injection of people coming into the Gold Coast to live, work, and it's just so exciting. So we just can't thank Bonza enough for coming.
What does this do? Sorry, one more. What does this do for the Gold Coast? It's 8 new routes specifically that haven't actually been around for quite some time, for never. What does this do for tourism in the future? I know it's a growing population here. How beneficial is this for the Gold Coast?
Yeah, well, look, $100 million into our economy is amazing, and it's just another reason why we've got to keep investing in the Gold Coast, keep investing in connectivity. We do know that travellers, the first thing they look for is ease of connectivity, and a direct route is the first port of call for that. So we think this is really going to stimulate our economy even more. We've come through COVID, we've had record numbers, so it's been a fantastic rebound, but there are headwinds coming our way. We need to keep being competitive and showing that the Gold Coast is a step ahead of everywhere else around Australia, if not the world. So, yeah.
Tim, would you mind jumping up?
Certainly.
Thank you. I guess the Gold Coast, why here? This is your third base now in Australia. What's the appeal?
The Gold Coast has been and is and will be Australia's number one playground, and that is acknowledged. It hasn't domestically been that easy to get to outside of the existing, I believe, 9 destinations which are served. So this is about bringing new route choice, bringing more accessibility, non-stop accessibility at really low fares to the Gold Coast. Not only inbound from a tourism perspective, but also very importantly outbound for the rapidly growing community and catchment of the Gold Coast Airport, whether that's northern New South Wales or up towards Brisbane. And that's really important.
How important was a base on the Gold Coast when you guys did launch earlier in the year? Was this, one of the main things that you had to secure to make sure Bonza was successful?
We are about leisure travel. And you don't go very far into talking about leisure travel in Australia without actually hearing or mentioning the Gold Coast. So yes, it is absolutely quite important to us, and today that's why we're really pleased about today's announcement and basing aircraft here on the Goldie.
Can you walk me through the Bonza difference? I guess you guys are a more casual airline. We're talking sneakers, not the usual slick back fun, snag in a bag. What's the appeal there, and how do you expect Gold Coasters in Australia to sort of jump on board?
We've been really encouraged with the reception that we've received across the locations that we've been servicing to date. We've essentially been adopted as whether it's the Sunshine Coast or Melbourne Tullamarines hometown airline, certainly on the Sunshine Coast especially so, and we are certainly hoping for that warm reception here on the Gold Coast, because people do realise that we are actually, we are you. We are travellers, we are the many, we're not the few. There's other airlines that take care of the few, we want to take care of the many, and that's what we're about. We're about bringing low fares and making low fares and many routes accessible to everybody.
Why do you guys sort of go for that more casual approach? What's the appeal to the general Australian population? And what is it? Can you walk me through what it is? I've never flown with Bonza, so I don't know.
We ask people to be themselves. We want people to be themselves. On a personal level, I think I find it strange that sometimes corporate Australia asks people to recruit great people and then say hide away your personality. Don't bring that to work. And when that's the single reason that they were recruited in the first place. So we actually embrace people for who they are. And we reflect the many. We reflect the many different cultures here in Australia, and that's who we are, because we are about the many and not the few.
Tim, just a few days ago you ditched some flights from the Sunshine Coast, I think citing some sustainability issues with those routes. So how confident are you that you won't have that problem here on the Gold Coast?
The market tells us. Essentially, we listen to the market, and if there isn't sufficient customer coverage or on board the aircraft, then we, of course, as any business, we review that in due course. That's just business as usual. Low-cost carriers around the world actually adopt that. It would be wrong of us to continue service if it wasn't viable for us, but it wasn't viable for the community if we could redeploy aircraft somewhere else. And that's effectively what happens. So there can be and won't be any guarantees that everything will work. That would be wrong of us. But we are very, very optimistic in terms of the opportunities that we have here. We do see today as a really big first step, but it is just a first step. And in talking with the Queensland Airports team, we are confident that there will be future steps ahead with more route choices to come. So we're confident, but we will look and learn just like we have done everywhere else.
And as you say, it is just a first step. Do you don't yet have CASA approval? Is that correct?
We have CASA approval to obviously operate flights, as we are doing at this very moment today. We have to get sign off on all new airports that we actually add to our AOC. So it is a process, but it is a process that we have gone through 17 times before.
So you're quite across that process, I imagine.
Indeed.
What sort of timeline then are we looking for the flights to be up and running?
Flights will be up and running starting around mid-November. With all of the 11 markets up and ready in time for Christmas.
How confident is Bonza of reaching capacity for flights to places like, Bundy and Albury?
The market's going to tell us. What we do know is that for other routes that we have into those locations, they are going gangbusters, and we've been adopted very, very well by the communities in those locations, whether it's Melbourne, Bundaberg, or whether it's Sunshine Coast to Albury. We've been very well received in those communities, and we've been very encouraged in terms of the load factors and the support that we've received, and we don't see that as being any different here on the Gold Coast.
Do you think the number of flights is sustainable? Can you also talk us through why you chose the number between Rockhampton and the Gold Coast, but then only two, Melbourne and Townsville?
Yeah, it really comes down to, from a population perspective, population in a particular location will drive the likely patronage and support that we're going to see on particular markets. Will we get everything right? No, we won't. Things will go wrong, and we will learn from that, but we won't be afraid to embrace those learnings and then go again. We want to be here to support many, many communities across the country, and as I say, today is an important first step, but it is just a first step.
Is there plans, I'm assuming, for a fourth hub then?
Absolutely. The Australian market tells us when to stop. And at this point, the Australian market is encouraging us to grow, and that is really great for us to hear. We are listening. We do not get everything right. We have not got everything right, and we have learned some lessons, and we will continue to learn lessons. And I think that is the important thing that we as Bonza have in our DNA, is that we will hold our hand up, we will acknowledge when we have missed a step, when we have done something wrong, and we will look, we will learn, and we will go again.
How good is this announcement for regional areas?
Oh, look, it's great. We also have an airport in Townsville, and so now we have connectivity with Townsville, which is awesome news for our team and our business. But what we've seen in the past is Gold Coast do have Melbourne, Sydney, the major hubs. This is now servicing, as Tim said, the communities that we haven't been able to service before. And I think that's great connectivity, not only for our people here, but for visitors wanting to come to the Gold Coast.
Is this new airline healthy for competition? Will it push other airlines to maybe penetrate those markets as well?
I think any competition generally is healthy because you want to lower airfares, and we know airfares have been a big problem in Australia. So we welcome Bonza into the market, and we absolutely have open arms as they open their services here, 11, and then maybe more later in the future. So.